Clara lived at the top, not just on the top floor of a luxury penthouse in Snow Paulo, but also at the top of social media, fashion brands, and VIP guest lists. She had millions of followers who idolized her, friends who called her Queen, and an entire world revolved around his image. Designer clothes, international travel, cars she didn't even know how to drive but used as backdrops for photos, restaurants where I took more selfies than bites. She smiled, always, his eyes, but there was something that no lens could capture. A silent absence, a void impossible to fill with likes or champagne. Because despite having everything, Clara didn't have the essentials. It had no roots. He had no genuine affection. I had no one to share the silence with. Her parents separated when she was still a child. The mother died shortly after, and the father, a successful businessman, preferred to deal with his pain by immersing himself in meetings and spreadsheets, forgetting he was crying alone in the next room. That's how Clara grew up, surrounded by everything except love, with money in hand, but need in the chest. The only one who still tried to maintain a bond with her was Donna Aurea, her maternal grandmother, a simple woman from the countryside who wrote letters by hand and sent homemade sweets by mail. But Clara rarely responded. I thought it was all tacky, old-fashioned, out of context. The truth, Clara was ashamed of her grandmother, but he denied precisely the only part of it that was true. And then, like a castle made of glass, everything began to crumble. What no one saw behind the perfectly edited stories was the tension that was growing behind the scenes of his life. The empire built by his father was sinking into debt, accusations, and scandals. And like a domino, everything that supported Clara's false stability came crashing down. The card was declined, the car was seized, the penthouse was auctioned, and the friends, they disappeared like smoke. The messages stopped, the proposals disappeared. Even the fans started to mock the fall. Clara, for the first time, felt the bitter taste of unfiltered loneliness. No makeup, no audience. There was no one, except a memory. Donna Aurea, that lady with wrinkled hands and a huge heart, the only one who never gave up on her, the only one that was always there, even when ignored. And it was with swollen eyes, shattered pride, and a backpack on her back that Clara boarded an intercity bus with no defined destination except the one that the heart silently always knew where it was. The road seemed longer than it was, maybe because it was the first trip Clara had taken without a camera, without an outfit, without expectations. It was just her fear, and a cruel doubt. Will she still accept me? The bus stopped at a modest bus station where time seemed to pass slowly. The sky was gray, and a light rain was beginning to fall down with hesitant steps, taking a deep breath. The cell phone was dead. There were no taxis, and everything around seemed too small for someone who had lived for years in a bubble of excess. She walked through the narrow streets, trying to remember the path of her childhood. The trees, the broken sidewalks, the smells, everything looked the same, except her. And then, as he turned the corner, he saw the house, small, with worn paint and a creaky gate, but with the same flower in the first window pot, the same yellow light on in the late afternoon. Clara approached, her heart racing. He knocked on the door, his knuckles trembling. For a few seconds, nothing. Time has stopped. Until the door opened, and there she was, Donna Aurea, older, more fragile, but with the same sparkle in his eyes as always. She didn't say anything, he just looked at Clara tenderly, and he hugged her without asking what happened. No charge. Without judging, come back, just hug, and it was there, as if to say, in that silent embrace, one day you understood. She hadn't lost everything. She had only lost what had never truly been hers: status, appearance, ego. But there, back at Grandma's house in the warmth of a simple and true home, she was beginning to rediscover what she had tried to bury her entire life: love, humility, the truth, and the value of family. And little did Clara know that the greatest revelations of his life were yet to come. Clara was 26 years. She was beautiful, charismatic, a successful influencer. Their days began with imported coffee served on gold trays and ended with behind-the-scenes stories from exclusive events. He lived in luxurious penthouses, wore clothes that cost more than minimum wage, and took rides on private jets as if they were taxes. But behind the impeccable filters and practiced smiles, there was a spoiled young woman, and deeply disconnected from what was once real. His childhood was the mother died too soon. The father threw himself into business as an escape from the pain. Clara grew up being raised by nannies, drivers, and the limits of the black card. Everything she knew about affection was shallow, quick, and disposable. He learned to live by appearances, and over time to believe in them too. But there was one exception, an outlier, a name she avoided but which never forgot her: Donna Aurea, the maternal grandmother. A simple woman, with calloused hands, someone who still sent long messages with "daughter" at the beginning and "God bless you" at the end. She didn't send pics, I sent prayers. He sent affection, I sent my best wishes. But Clara ignored it. He thought his grandmother was square, too country. It didn't match your feed. It didn't fit into their stories. He barely responded. He never visited. Over time, the "good morning, my love" turned into silence. Not because Donna Aurea gave up, but because I knew that love it is expected to be. And then fate did what Clara never had the courage to do. He threw it back on the ground. No warning, no anesthesia. It all started with a scandal involving the father's name. Fraud, corruption, embezzlement. Headlines popped. The partners disappeared. Justice came knocking. And what once seemed armored fell like a house of cards. In a matter of weeks, Clara lost everything. The money, the house, the invitations. But she was in control. And when that happens, there are only two options left: the illusion, or you sank, or learn to swim with your soul. She, by instinct, chose to survive. No money, no direction, no friends, not knowing who to turn to. She remembered the only person who never charged her, never turned his back, never asked for anything in return. Donna Aurea, with a backpack on her back and her pride shattered, Clara boarded a regular bus, the first one of her life. No first class, Wi-Fi, no dressing. The journey was long, number, not because of the distance, but by weight. Every kilometer felt like a memory, a guilt, an accumulated shame. Upon arriving in the small town where her grandmother lived, time seemed to have stopped. The streets had the same smell of childhood. The trees, the rooftops, the street dogs. Everything looked the same, except Clara. She was not the same anymore, and deep down I knew it was never all it seemed. That was his first appearance in front of the house's rusty gate. He hesitated. Would it be received? Was there still room for her there? It hit and waited. The door creaked slowly, and in the doorway the grandmother appeared. Older, more fragile, but with the same look of tenderness. Donna Aurea didn't ask anything. He didn't demand an explanation. He just opened his arms and hugged. Clara cried. For the first time in a long time, not because I lost everything, but for finally having found it again. What Clara didn't really matter yet. That humble house hid secrets from the past, truths that could change everything, and that, perhaps, she had more to learn there than anywhere else she had ever been, because sometimes you have to lose everything to understand the value of a single person who never left you. And you? Would you recognize someone's worth before you lost them? In just 3 months, everything fell apart. First, it was a discreet news on the internet. Then came the headlines, accusations, money laundering, fraud in public contracts. Clara's father's name became synonymous with scandal, and with it came the weight of ruin, blocked cards, frozen accounts, properties confiscated one by one. The lawyers said it was just a phase, but reality didn't wait for comfort. Overnight, Clara went from being a beloved influencer to an ignored shadow. Brands stopped responding. The invitations have stopped. The friends disappeared. The cell phone stopped ringing. No, but her, no money, without having anyone to count on. And worse, too embarrassed to ask for help. Behind the scenes of the fall, no one saw it. No one posted. No one called to see if she was okay. And it was in this painful silence that Clara realized something. She never really had anyone to count on. Unless for one person, the one that was always there, who never asked for a like, never judged, and he never stopped loving. Donna Aurea. Time that great morning, no makeup, took a bus, no designer bag, without looking at the camera. The journey seemed too long, perhaps because it carried the weight of all the wrong choices. Upon arriving, he felt the world shrink. The streets were narrow, the houses simple. But there, something felt safe, familiar. When she knocked on her grandmother's door, Clara was in pieces. Pride has completely crumbled. And then she heard, "My daughter, you took too long to come back." Donna Aurea's voice carried no disapproval. "I saved your place." It was at that moment that Clara collapsed. In her grandmother's arms, she cried like she hadn't cried in years. No rush, no posing, no filter. In the early days, Clara felt like a stranger in her own life. The bed was hard, the food was simple, and the silence deafening. She didn't know how to sweep the house. I didn't know how to boil water to make coffee. I didn't know how to listen to stories without interrupting. He knew how to teach. He knew how to respect other people's time. He knew how to accept even mistakes. Clara saw her grandmother wake up at 5 in the morning, prepare the bread that was sold on the street, take care of plants, humming old songs while sweeping the yard. And everything she once considered poor now seemed beautiful, authentic, true. Little by little, Clara exchanged her cell phone for her recipe book. She left the dressing room mirror for the living room mirror that truly reflected who she was. He learned to make coffee the way his grandmother liked it, folding clothes, listening without rushing, speaking without showing off. She still made mistakes, but unlike before, Now I wanted to get it right. One night, sitting on the porch, Clara asked, "Grandma, why didn't you ever give up on me?" Donna Aurea smiled, looking at the sky. "Because I knew one day you would come back. And love, daughter, love waits, always waits." And a hug
That sentence came like a punch.
Clara realized that even though she had everything, she never had that. There was never anyone who really waited for her. And now she had. But the most surprising thing was yet to come. Because between recipes, clothes on the line, and late afternoon conversations, Clara would discover that her grandmother carried a past she never imagined. Secrets kept under lock and key, truths that would change everything, and that would make Clara rethink her own name, story, her own origin. Because sometimes what seems like the end is just the beginning. And what Clara was about to discover, it wasn't just about his family. It was about herself, about who she was before all this, about who she could be if she had the courage to continue. And you? Would I have that courage? Would I, in Clara's place, know how to recognize the value of someone simple before it's too late? One cold night, Clara woke up startled by a noise coming from the house was silent during that night. Then, everything seemed even quieter. But that sound, it was rhythmic, familiar. Leaving the room still sleepy and wrapped in a blanket, Clara followed the scent. Smell of warm bread, smell of childhood. There she was, Donna Aurea, standing with the dim kitchen light on. She wore an old apron and stirred a bowl of dough as if it were an extension of her own body. Around pots of flour, baking trays, and a doorway already watching 3 a.m. For a moment she felt small, useless, disconnected from that world that was now hers. "Do you still do this?" she asked, her voice low, as if she was afraid of the answer. Donna Aurea stopped stirring the dough and looked at her granddaughter with a serene smile. One of those smiles that is seen a lot, but still chooses to be sweet. "I always did," he replied calmly. "Only you who have never seen it." That sentence entered Clara's heart. Had never like seen a delicate blade, not because Grandma hid it, but because she never looked. She's always been too busy, too focused on bright screens, edited lives, selfies, and events. And now, there, in front of that woman with marked hands and a firm gaze, she saw. For the first time, he truly saw. The woman who supported 3 generations with dignity, who sold bread, washed clothes, took care of her grandson, cooked for neighbors, comforted grieving mothers, sewed for others. And yet he never complained, even with little, never lacked love. Clara sat at the table, saying nothing, just watching, absorbing every gesture of the grandmother as if witnessing a silent miracle. And then he cried, not from sadness, but of shame, and also of gratitude. Shame for everything you missed. Gratitude that there is still time to see. Donna Aurea approached, wiping her hands on her apron. He placed a cup of tea in front of his granddaughter, and he sat down beside her. Who knows the time? "Daughter, life isn't just what we show others. It's what we live when no one's looking. It is in silence, in routine, that we learn who we really are." Clara just nodded. The throat is blocked, the chest tight. "I was so blind, Grandma, you tried so hard to show me. And I was too busy being someone I don't even know if I was." And Donna Aurea smiled again, this time with teary eyes. "But now you see, and that is already a lot.
Something
In the
inside
days that
Clara
followed
changed.
Subtly but definitively. She started waking up early, helping with household chores, accompanying her grandmother in making bread, listening to the stories of the neighbors who came to buy delicacies, understanding the value of simplicity and the greatness that lies within it. And most importantly, it started to build one's own identity, no longer based on status, followers, or brands, but in real values. He started writing down recipes in his grandmother's, making notes about family history, asking about her mother's childhood, about the past she never wanted to hear. And that's when everything started to change again. Because the closer Clara got, the more she discovered that there was a lot she didn't know. One afternoon, while organizing a forgotten drawer, Clara found a wooden box. It was old, covered in a hand-embroidered cloth. Inside it there were letters, yellowed photos, old receipts, and among the papers, a sealed envelope, his name written in shaky handwriting. For Clara, when you're ready to know the truth. Her heart raced. It was his mother's handwriting. His hands were shaking as he opened the envelope. Inside was a long letter, and its contents would change everything Clara thought she knew about her life. But before continuing reading, Donna Awea appeared at the bedroom door. It was silent for a few seconds, and seeing the box open, he simply said, "If you've made it this far, it's because you're ready. But know this, daughter, the truth sometimes hurts, and it also sets you free." Clara looked at her grandmother. For the first time, he felt like he was about to face the real world. Not the digital world of appearances, but the raw story of your own existence. The letter revealed secrets that had been kept for decades. Details about the mother's life, about choices made in silence, about absences she never understood. And more than anything, a Buddha named Clara never expected to read. Again, a name that would awaken memories, doubts, and a new journey. Because in that envelope, Clara didn't just meet the woman who was her mother. She discovered who she herself was, or rather, how could be. And you? How many times have you failed to see what was always there by your side? How many times have you ignored the simple gestures of those who love you most? Are you looking or just skimming through life? Clara's story is far from over. In truth, she's just getting started. Next chapters, she will need to confront the past, make difficult choices, forgive, and maybe be forgiven. Because growing up hurts, but ignoring the truth hurts even more. If this story has touched you so far, if you also believe that every life has something to teach, so stay with us, because Clara's life may very well be a mirror of yours, and sometimes all we need. It's seen for the first time. Today, Clara still lives with Donna Awea, that luxurious penthouse with city views, as well as advanced commercial partnerships, filters, and millions of followers. But for the first time, she feels like she has it all. Grandma's house is small, with weather-stained walls and a floor that creaks with every step. But it was there that Clara rediscovered comfortable silence, sincere laughter, and the value of the smell of bread coming out of the oven. Today, she no longer posts photos of breakfast on golden trays. She serves freshly brewed coffee in simple cups alongside her grandmother as they exchange stories she now listens to with an open heart. Clara learned to make bread with her own hands. In the beginning, I missed the point, burned the bottom, cried in frustration. But Donna Aurea smiled and said, "That's right. Even bread needs to rest to rise." That phrase kept echoing in her mind, because somehow it was also useful for life. With each wave, Clara reconnects with something she had lost without realizing it. Time, patience, presence. There, among flour, yeast, and oven heat, she found more than a new routine. She found a new version of herself. She didn't lose everything. She lost what was never truly hers: status, prestige, numbers, appearances. And in return, he got what no amount of money in the world could ever buy: roots, love, family. Today, Clara knows that she doesn't need the whole world at her feet. A sincere hug is enough, a shared table, a voice at the end of the hallway saying, "Good morning," tenderly. Way to simplicity gave. Haste turned into caution. And the loneliness gave way to something she hadn't felt in years: belonging. She spent years trying to be seen, but she was only truly seen when she returned to the only person who never stopped seeing her with love: your grandmother. Maybe that was it from the beginning. Maybe she didn't need to conquer the world, but just allow yourself to come home.